Well, hi everybody again, and welcome to another edition of my live show on the poetry of painting. So do feel free to leave comments and ask questions. Don't be shy. It's lovely to have you here. And if you'd like to contribute an art-related poem, then that would be marvellous as well, either for this week or for some other time. So anyway, following my normal format for the show, I have a guest poet appearing this evening, and I'm very excited to be welcoming back a wonderful poet and really lovely lady, Roz Ottery. So, Roz, hello, how are you? Welcome back.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So, how are you and what have you been doing? Oh, I've lost. Bring you back. Sorry. I managed to take you off the screen then. Sorry about that.
I've been doing various things. I've just been told that I've been included in an anthology of horror poems, which is nice. I wrote some horror poems a few years ago for Halloween, and one of those has got into the anthology, which I'm really pleased about because, any little things like that are always a success. Poems are one of those things that are quite difficult, same as all art, really. It's really difficult to get out there. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm very busy because we have actually adopted a 10-year-old, so I'm rushing here, there, and everywhere with him as well. Yes, it's quite a broad range of things.
Wow. Well, many congratulations on getting your poem in the anthology. That's brilliant. So excellent news. So this week we decided on my painting of Blustery Day as the subject for our poems. And for some reason, it seems to present us both with challenges. For my part, I wrote one version and then decided it didn't really capture what I wanted it to convey. So I was awake early one morning with it going round in my head. And luckily I had my phone to hand, so wrote down some new thoughts. And I believe that you had some sort of trials with your version of the poem as well.
I did indeed. The picture attracted me. I think it's a very atmospheric, pleasant picture. It's the sort of thing that I would love having, hanging in my hall. And so I was very excited to embark upon trying to write the poem. But I had a strange thought when I looked at the picture, because I don't think you've actually shown it yet, have you, Fiona? But it's a picture of 3 trees on the horizon, with one tree slightly separate. And what happened was that maybe it was the hour I was writing, because it was late at night, but I had a feeling that this one tree could feel quite jealous that the other 3 trees were not near it. It looked quite alone. And what with the blustery atmospheric feel of the painting, it made me feel that there are times in life when human beings get quite defensive because they feel their troubles are quite often other people's fault. And I thought how ridiculous that was, that we humans do that, because nature doesn't do that at all. They have challenges the same as us, but they don't rise to it in the same way. And so in my head, it must have gelled, because I tried to write a nature poem about this painting over and over again, and it just would not come. What I was forced back to, no matter how hard I tried, I was bobbed back to being reflective about this type of feeling. And so the mood of moved me only one way, so it wouldn't let me go. So in the end, I gave up and I wrote the poem that the picture evoked, and it's a bit quirky for me, to tell you the truth, but I enjoyed writing it, even though it was a challenge.
Excellent. So, shall we get to hear it?
Yes. Of course, I always name the poem the same as the picture because that is the title of the painting. So, Blustery Day. I'm going to read it slowly because there are complicated thoughts in here.
Righty-ho.
The wind whispers old wisdom through the silence of this place. My secluded boughs have always reached, stretched forlornly into space, and watching guards point upwards. And so it is with jaded eye, I see the gales make blue-grey clouds play out sad battles in the sky. Each thought I'd shaped around the bare-branched trio on the moor. This is my only destination, but I've not felt these thoughts before. Or the bluster of the blast helps blow the cobwebs far and free. Are Macbeth's weird sisters laughing? I am one, and they are three. I'm that captivated presence, standing bare, my wood like stone. There are none to bear me witness. I've faced their scrutiny alone. But these winds of change swirl round me with a flash of pure insight, and the sisters' branches reach towards me, or is that just a trick of light? Could it be my isolation was my self-inflicted fate, and the ivy threaded o'er me protected what I'd advocate? Are those others in the distance surrounding misty hedges, hazy hedge, only trying to defend me from those gusts, a rough, stormy edge? All these years I felt alone, here as the rain has come and gone, wondered as the leaves are falling, if I wanted to go on. Now I see those three quite differently, gifts as far foresight. Too many years I've languished, blind to the nature of my plight. Where the green-grey imperfections with a dab and smudge of black all stand under skies and rest in fields along the track. This stiff breeze gave whispered meaning as it danced and brushed and curled, calling your place within this picture adds more focus for the world. That's it, really.
Wow. I love that. That is really good. It's just so evocative and just, it just adds to the painting.
Well, it's only just been written, so therefore I stumbled when I was doing one of the verses. But it's got quite a tongue twister.
Mm.
But it really did make me feel that I was almost trying to lampoon a human's ridiculous thought that the nature of what they're given and where they are is very often other people's faults. I was trying to sort of, by trying to look at that from this tree's point of view, I was hoping that it would show how silly that is, because in actual fact, we're all part of the picture. We're all part of the focus. So that was the sort of motivation.
Brilliant. Chris has left a comment, by the way, that hi to both of us, and he's looking forward to hearing our poems. So he's just heard one. A couple of times the sound wasn't quite so good on when you were reading, Roz. So would it be all right if you can send me your poem and I can put it with my painting on a post later on or tomorrow for people to read? That'd be brilliant. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing your poem, actually, Fiona.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Well, all right. Well, I'll read mine and then we can discuss them. So
okay.
It's not quite as deep as yours, but there we go. Here we go. So Blustery Day. A leaf, dry and light as a feather, carried by an unseen hand, tossing and turning, bowling along, then dropped, only to be lifted again to resume its fitful journey. Fresh green shoots of crops clothe the land like velvet, the surface disturbed by the wind's turbulent caress, a multitude of supple young stalks bending to its will. The breeze moves on, takes hold of the still bare trees, As if vexed by the solid trunks, it rattles the leafless twigs, their brittle sound adding to the wind's own voice. While shadows of scudding clouds skate over the land below, flurries of invisible gusts tug at hair and clothes with the insistence of a small child that's being ignored. It's the type of weather that blows away the cobwebs, brings colour to pale cheeks and fresh ideas to mind, and having blown moves on, taking with it this blustery day. So that was mine. So quite different. And my first one was quite different again, and it didn't convey what I really was feeling, which was more about the wind and its effects. So I'm sure it's not perfect, but I felt happier with the second version. So it was good fun, challenging, but
it's lovely that it's so contrasted. It really is indicative of how any art can affect different people with such differences, really.
And it's, you know, it's not as though it's a huge complicated painting. I mean, it's just up here. It's not a particularly large painting, but it yes, even though it's not, you know, a 6-foot painting, it just has some sort of power to it in a way, which I think comes a lot as well from painting on site, because you know, when you're painting on site, you actually feel the elements, and you've got the smells, the sights, the sounds, you know, and the temperature, and in fact with this one, I had all the elements in one day, I think, because I had sunshine, rain, snow, sleet, wind. But it wasn't going to defeat me. I carried on, and we got there in the end. And maybe that's what's actually showing through there. I don't know. But it's interesting that it had, you know, such a deep effect on you as well.
It was a strange effect. I have to say, at first, I smiled at myself when I thought that, and thought I could move on, but I not. I felt that I had to get this poem out of the way before I could have looked on it in a different way, and I thought that was what the case was, and there wasn't enough time to get this poem done because it was complicated. Therefore, it took me longer. Usually, I can do poems quite quickly, but I went back and back and back to this poem because it wasn't still saying exactly what I meant. I just it is quite thought provoking, and I think your poem says that at the end. There's you said blowing cobwebs. I've got blowing cobwebs in my poem, which is quite interesting. And you said it's thought provoking, and that's exactly it, really.
And you know, I'm quite new to the poetry thing, really. So do you often find that a poem will either just come easily and flow, or is it like there's an extreme of it being really easy and flowing, or having to sort of tussle with it for longer? Is that, you know, just a general sort of thing?
Yeah, sometimes they absolutely write themselves, and you feel guilty for performing them because you know that the ease with which the poem was written was just like liquid gold, and sometimes they are the best poems because they pour, and love it when that happens. But it's quite astounding how fast they can be written in those cases. But there's always a little period when you go back and you may tweak a few words. But if a poem like that happens, then it tends to be something that you almost remember by heart anyway. This one did not do that. This was piece by piece was torn from my flesh. But only because I was trying to, I was tussling with the thought that this was a collaboration that you were doing about your picture, and I think this is about the idea the picture provoked, and I guess I didn't, I didn't want to let this situation down as well. So.
Well, Chris said, great poem, Roz, and an interesting rationale for its creation as well. So you've got a thumbs up from there. Thank you. So, but I don't, does it happen sometimes that you know where you want to go with a poem, but you just can't quite get it there? Is that something that happens often?
It does happen. No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen often with me. I've been writing poems for so many years that very often I can do other jobs while I'm thinking little bits and pieces that ferment, and then when I come to sit and write, it's usually virtually there. But there are times when it isn't. Sometimes it's because the subject matter is very sensitive. I have written poems for the purposes of people's funerals or that type of thing. When the subject matter is very sensitive, you're invested in trying to get something absolutely spot on the nail rather than something that's just put together. It's got to the feeling's got to be right and perfect for the person, and I think you can only do that if you know somebody very well.
Yes.
But certainly, poetry isn't something that I just sit down and do. It almost lives with me, really, day to day. I see something, and immediately the process has started, and I cogitate and think, and there'll be a line that will come to me that I may write down and put it in my pocket for later or whatever.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you make notes as you go along and then sort of put them all together, or does it sometimes just build in your head?
I sometimes I write a word down, which I think, yes, that's perfect. Sometimes a phrase, but it's very often that I hold it in my head. If it's there, it's there. It doesn't go away. I don't often forget.
Wow. So, well, I must admit, I've been writing mainly phrases, but some words as well. So just things that come to me when I'm thinking about the paintings, just, and sometimes from the experience of being at the place and sometimes from looking at the actual painting. And I suppose, with poetry, the painting's quite similar in a way, in that some paintings just seem to flow onto the canvas. They almost, you almost feel like you could put the tubes of paint there and they'll just get on the canvas. They flow so easily sometimes, but certainly not all of them. Some of them can be more of a challenge, and I'm not sure that it really affects the way either one turns out. Some just take longer to get there than others, but quite another similarity between poetry and painting as well. So
I think there are absolutely massive similarities. I mean, I can't help but reflect back on the song Vincent, because the poetry in that song is just incredible. But so too, obviously, the artist and everything that we know about him and the paintings that he left, and they just complement each other. It's just a nice amalgamation. I just think they're so much closer than you think they are. My hand cannot paint what you paint. I could never do what you do. And perhaps the difference may be that words, because we learn them in the cradle, are perhaps more accessible to people. Whereas I think you've got to have an eye and a hand that obeys you to be a painter. But certainly my poems paint pictures to me whenever I'm reading. I see it in my mind. Even the one I've just read you, which is not necessarily indicative of me. I can see this tree, wondering whether these three other trees are actually against him or for him. And I've called them Macbeth's weird sisters at one point, because you could imagine that as a sapling that may have looked like that tree.
Absolutely.
So are pictures. They're pictures of the mind. That's all. They're pictures in the air.
Yes, and I know when I first read some of your poems that they really did paint pictures in my head for me as well. You know, they're very descriptive and atmospheric and evocative, and you know, to be able to do that with a poem is magical. I think, you know, I feel in a way I've got an advantage because people can just see what I've done, but you know, with yours, they're creating their own pictures as well. So, you know,
They do.
everybody's picture is going to be different.
Yeah, the brush is the tongue rather than the hand.
Yeah, yeah. But
I think the beauty of being able to have an amalgamation like this is that it really is provoking, exciting in a really positive way to be able to share
mm,
creativity. It's you know that it excites me in a way that nothing else does. It's almost an opportunity that you wouldn't really want to miss. That's why I'm really hoping that this series goes on, because I although I can't catch them very often at the time that you
mm.
broadcast at the moment,
Well,
I've dipped into them and seen them and thought how great they were.
yeah. Well, a good bit of news for you, and just a heads up to everybody else as well that I'm probably going to need to move them from 6 o'clock till 7 o'clock soon. And I will put posts out on Facebook so that people know. So it'll be at a later time, and hopefully some more people might be able to join us live and have interaction, comments, questions as well. So. But at least hopefully that will be more convenient for you as well. So, because I'm hoping that you'll come back again as well, because I love your work, and I love talking with you as well. It's just discussing all the different aspects, and when you were saying about Vincent, and that just have you seen this the or heard the song with the video of all the paintings with it?
Yes.
That
Yes.
it's just magical, isn't it?
It's wonderful. There is he creates with those words. Exact. I just feel that if it's almost a show where you could just bury yourself in that. It's beautiful to
Yeah.
have the images and the words. It just is a sort of a sensation feast. It's really lovely.
It is. It's just so wonderful, and with the paintings as well, the colours, the textures, his very individual style. It's just a beautiful thing. So
It
I
really
think.
is. And the other thing is, Fiona, it reaches the heart. The
Mm,
paintings reach the heart, and so does the song. And you've got music as well, which is a
mm,
third art form that ties it all together. So
yeah.
what it does is it actually evokes, I think, the very thing that artists try to get to, which is the soul of everything, really.
Mm.
You know,
And I think
in
having
a spiritual sense.
and having them together, I think
Yeah,
amplifies the emotional effect of them as well. You could look at the paintings; they're gorgeous. You can hear the song, but then you put them together, and
absolutely.
it just makes it even better, which is almost impossible
Well,
when you look at one or hear one, but putting them together, and it takes it to another level, doesn't it?
I think that it epitomizes for me the word catharsis. I
Mm,
think it's a cathartic experience to have something like that. Now, obviously, it's not going to move everybody. People have their own catharsis. It's not that one will be the same for everyone. But if you meet something that brings those elements together, I mean, one single art form can do that. But
mm,
if it's a feast of them, I think it's an amazing experience. I really do. And
it is.
I have often looked at something like the video of that with headphones on, and just especially if I'm tired, or if there is a need just to catch my breath, it just moves me. It's like a
Mm,
meditation. It's like
yeah. That's a good idea, actually. I haven't thought of doing that for, just as a complete break from all of the stress and everything. That would be a really lovely one to watch and just take some time out for ourselves.
Indeed.
We do. I think especially at the moment, we're coming out of lockdown, hopefully gradually, and hopefully it's all going to work and not not go wrong. And I think that in itself is stressful for people, because although lockdown's been stressful in many ways, because it's changing again. Change is stressful for a lot of people, and anything that we can do with poetry, art, music that helps people to cope with that has got to be a good thing. So
as a society, we have lost a lot of the things that gave us ballast and gave us richness, because we're too busy. There's so many things that we're rushing to do that we haven't got time to stop for richness. And art in whichever form can feed. I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that there is not just a place for art. I think it's essential. It's the most incredible form of sort of almost getting yourself back on track, like a bicycle chain that's come off. You get yourself back onto the bits that turn the wheels, that make you feel that life is worth living. And certainly I think that art can do that.
And also just de-stressing, recharging your batteries, and that they're the sort of paintings that I try to create that will help people to feel more calm, feel tranquil, as though they can step into the painting and lose themselves for a while and just let all of the stress and anxiety slip away and just have a complete break from it. I think that sort of thing is just so important for people to be able to cope, as you say. So
I think it's very important.
Yeah. So with our poetry and our paintings, we will continue to try and help people in that way. And do the best. Well, Roz, just about coming to the end of time. So I am just so pleased that you could join me again. I really am. Thank you so much. And for sharing. Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing your amazing poem with us and chatting with me. And I really hope that you'll come back again very soon for another session of Poetry of Painting. And hopefully we'll decide on a painting that doesn't give us quite such challenges next time. Oh dear.
Absolutely. I hope so.
So that would be lovely. I look forward to that very much. In the meantime, I have another fabulous poet joining me next week for more talk about poetry and painting, different views, different viewpoints. So I hope that everyone will be able to join me again for that. Same time, same place. Time will be changing soon, but for next week, it'll be at the same time. And just a quick reminder, if anybody would like to sign up to my VIP newsletter to get to see new paintings before they go on social media, then just nip onto my website, www.fionahooper.com, to sign up, or just email me your address and I can sign you up, your email address that is, or message me. So stay safe, have a good week everyone, and once again thanks very much, Roz, and I'll be back next week on Wednesday 6 o'clock for another Poetry of Painting session. Bye for now. Bye. Bye, Roz.
Bye.